Hello, everybody, and welcome to Problem Solve Her, a fun, innovative, awesome, captivating podcast where women share their fabulous stories and inspirations and experiences. And I'm your co-host, Chloe, along with my girl,
Dagmar.
Dagmar's in the house. And today we have a very special guest. I say special because she's special to me and soon to Dagmar. My girl, Raihny's in the house. Woo! Raihn,
Happy Independence Day from Jamaica.
Yes, happy Independence, John. No, Raihny is all the way in either Kingston or Montego Bay, Jamaica. I can't give out her exact location because I don't want the stalkers because she's so beautiful. But Raihn is an incredible, inspiring, amazing, fabulous woman who is a marketing genius / guru. And she started in her family's coffee business, which is incredible. And anyone that really understands coffee knows that Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee is the best coffee in the world. Sorry, other Latin countries and Asia, but Jamaica's number one. And from there, Raihn really learned a lot from her dad and really understood what business and negotiating meant, just like me, learned from our fathers. And she also is fluent in French, lived in France, and was working with some very big brands like Moet & Chandon and Veuve Clicquot. And she's worked for some of the biggest companies in Jamaica doing branding and part of the CPJ family for a while. And she has a really cool, interesting job now for the last few years, which I'll let her speak about. So without further ado, the illustrious, the fabulous Raihny. Whoop, whoop. Raihny, welcome to Problem Solve Her. And please tell our viewers and listeners and our audience a little bit about you growing up in Jamaica, living off foreign, which you did for a while, and just a little bit about your background to start.
Jamaica born and raised, and it was incredible. You always say that it was such a privilege to really grow up here, just because the fact, just who my parents are. We grew up in a home where everybody was in the kitchen, so we always like to steal a little taste here and there, and I think that's sort of was a genesis of my relationship with food, and then wine and coffee certainly. But growing up here was awesome because our parents really, it was always about everyone is equal. Respect your elders, sort of further to my role now in terms of being in the wellness industry. We grew a lot of what we consume. So if, anything that ails you, there's mint tea outside, there's Cersei growing outside, but they really exposed us not to just Jamaica, so like every weekend we'd be on a beach or, driving somewhere. I even remember my parents picking us up from prep school with our bags already packed and we changed in the car, headed off to somewhere in Jamaica to spend the weekend. And they are, my dad is no longer with us, but they were lovers of this country. So I feel like we grew up going through every single parish and really developed an appreciation and a great appreciation and passion for our fellow Jamaican, but for this country. And so I've kind of taken that rooting and grounding with me into any role that I have ever had. For me, I prefer to be on the brand Jamaica side. And I've always had like a global mindset as a citizen of Jamaica, but also as a citizen of the world. And so, my business acumen started from a very early age. Growing up in a family business is the type of thing where, you're sweeping the floors. It's not as glamorous as people paint it. My dad, as a pioneer in the coffee industry, we started doing very small jobs and worked from farm to cup, even worked in the coffee shops for a while behind the bar, then eventually sort of worked in sales and export and just understanding the potential for brand Jamaica, and in particular coffee as it relates to the Black Gold and Champagne region of coffee. So kind of Jamaica to the world. So that was awesome. And it really did lay a solid foundation. So any role that I've ever held beyond that, nothing is beneath me, all equal. Especially when it came to being in the wine and spirits industry, you're dealing with bartenders, you're dealing with people who are harvesting grapes, you're dealing with winemakers. And it was just all such an incredible experience with all of these incredible humans that sort of contribute to this just this spirited industry, as we'd like to say. And so it's funny because a couple of years ago, I've been in wellness and I've been commercial manager for Jacana Wellness since May 2022. And it was interesting because, we had...
It's been 3 years already?
Fourth year.
What?
And
Time flies.
literally, we had come to the table before, and I guess I just wasn't ready yet, and really jumped on it literally the week after my dad transitioned. So it was time to come back to brand Jamaica. And I sat on a panel for the Wellness Tourism Conference, and the moderator looked at me and, he was like, "You grew up in coffee. You've worked for some major brands in the wine industry. Is it any surprise that you are now in the industry that you're in?" And I said, well, for me, I always love the fact that wine and spirits and coffee have this agricultural base, has a culture and history that starts from the root and is connected to humans, people, and plants, and that it evolves into this beautiful value-added product that gives you this tremendous equity.
But explain what Jacana is, because Dagmar does not know, and people from foreign don't know my girl, please.
So Jacana is a wellness company, and we, as commercial manager for the wellness business, we make 100% organic wellness products that are infused into spa treatment as well as spa retail across hospitality here in Jamaica, using Jamaican botanicals, of which CBD is one, and CBD comes from cannabis, as everyone knows. People may or may not know this, but about 52% of the world's botanicals come from Jamaica. Our founder, Alexandra Chong, who is a Jamaican woman, hailing from Ocho Rios, which is where our farm and operations are, our 100-acre farm, which is now a certified USDA organic, which is awesome. So we have a European Union grade facility there, which is also recognized by the European Union and FDA. So all our products can actually come to the US and to the United Kingdom as well as European Union countries. And so, she, growing up here, she, we went through the same childhood, right? So picking things, anytime she had an ailment, you're picking things out to the backyard. I mean, not that we're ignoring modern medicine or traditional medicine, but also just going back to the root. And I think when she studied abroad and, whenever she'd come down with something, she always wondered about the long-term effects of prescriptions and constantly, having to take, the long-term effects on the body.
You mean prescription medications that people take, right? In terms of whether it's cholesterol meds or for people with high blood pressure, for pressure or sugars, as we say in Jamaica.
I mean, and even, what we're continuing to discover, antibiotics and long-term exposure on women's body and our balance and so on as women. And so she came back home wanting to create these products as a toast to Jamaica, but also a toast to our heritage, our legacy, and the fact that we have this beautiful island, but also this mineral-rich soil. And so much like the wine business and the coffee business, the cannabis industry in particular, where we are in Orange Hall, St. Anne, it has a beautiful microclimate that lends itself really well. It's all the cannabis is farm-born, sun-grown, river-fed. So it really allows our plants to flourish and develop these medicinal and therapeutic properties that are really impacting people's lives in terms of, sort of their journey with pain. So whether it be muscle pain, joint pain, soreness, whether it be from injury, illness, or the wear and tear of modern life, but then also because CBD is an anti-inflammatory, you can take it like a vitamin, or it's really great for pain and any inflammation, but it also supports the body's natural receptors as part of the endocannabinoid system. So the immune system is part of that function, but central nervous system, so things like stress, things like sleep cycles, things like anxiety. And we are doing we get a fair amount of testimonials for people who have been in car accidents, that suffer from chronic pain, arthritic pain, people who suffer from anxiety, brain tumors, post-op, surgery as part of their recovery. So it's...
My dad, I'm not joking, he has a jar. Okay, so how long have they been here now? 3 years. He's really been hoarding this thing. It's the one, it's almost like a jelly form, kind of, but it's a little bit harder. Exactly. I want to say it's like 5 ounces. I had a migraine a few months ago. He put it right here and on my temples.
Yes.
Within 20 minutes. I am giving a testimony right here on the podcast. It's incredible. First of all, it was tingling a little bit on my forehead, and but it worked so quickly. I took 3 Advil like a few hours before, that did nothing. Oh, and then my dad uses a lot because he has one of his fingers kind of gets like a little stiff, and he puts it on there all the time.
Raihn, I'm curious, how did you gain all this knowledge?
I love information. And so, there's a lot a book can teach you, but like, I listen, what you mean with specific to an industry or just in general?
Just in general, like it seems like you really love what you do, found the right product for it, but you really have your inner own purpose and mission what drives you.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, I do think that it is a gift. I think a lot of it is intuitive. Somebody asked me the same question the other day because I have a couple hobbies. I am in wellness and it's a core thing. So I have a little run walking club that I kind of project manage for a gym chain that is here in Jamaica. And one of the trainers was like, wow, I see what you do. I mean, is this something that you have to learn? And, yeah, I mean, I studied business and there were marketing courses, but I feel that apart from it just being a genuine gift, when you love what you do or you love what anything aspect, when you love what you do. So whether it was coffee, I mean, wine and spirits, what's not to love? But also
everything is to love about wine and spirits and coffee.
But also, I think it taps into my own sense of purpose. I think it's something that I had to find and really because for a minute I was just like, I really want to focus on brand Jamaica. I really want to focus on Jamaica to the world as an export-minded person. And there was a lot of growth there, just in terms of spiritual growth, mental growth, professional, personal growth. At Jacana, we say it's mind, body, and soul. And so these 3 things have always been something that I've worked on intentionally while all giving myself grace to make mistakes, to learn from others, to be open enough to, start again. It builds a certain resilience and tenacity as well that, no matter, and once you are open and are rooted and in alignment, I do feel that greater abundance is something that comes as long as you remain grateful. So for me, it's all these things working together, including the bad days, including the mistakes, including the failures, including just being able to start over again. It's all sort of made me perfectly imperfect and more rooted or anchored in who I am. And then being able to translate that and give that to something has really been what's responsible for who I am.
What was the biggest problem you ever struggled with by not following your purpose or your mission?
I feel some of my greatest challenges was overcoming corporate and getting out of my own way, to be honest.
Amen to that, sister.
Because I don't thrive in environments that are terribly bureaucratic. Especially for me, I'll thrive in a flat, progressive environment, whether it's in a entity or a startup. Because Jacana is still a very young company. But when it feels as if it's bureaucratic, there's gatekeeping, bullying, hazing, those types of, I tend not to perform at my best. I tend to not even feel my best. And it becomes like this emotional experience and it completely throws me off. And I won't say that I even perform and deliver at my best. You won't get much creativity out of me, even if you get some. There have been some times where I've been disappointed at just cultures and types that you run into. I mean, they're everywhere. I think every company or corporate structure has them. So, but for me, I had to get to a point where I had to kind of shift my perspective. And once I shifted my perspective, it changed how I engaged. And it also changed how things came and how I received things. So it felt like I moved away from being really emotional about it all to looking at it more as a way to grow, being constructive, adding greater value or finding a better way to do something, becoming solution oriented versus God, woe is me and why am I here? This person is awful. Using that I do consider myself a little bit of an alchemist. So when you're able to channel and use challenges, your own personal challenges, no matter where they spring from or how they take shape, to then almost create something positive and magical that people resonate with, that, have huge impact. That is something that I've had to really work through, and I'm happy to be out on the other side. Still every day, sometimes there are challenges, and I always get these little reminders or humblings of things that I need to work on, because you're always growing and learning, right? So.
What helped you to shift your perspective? Because it's not easy to shift your perspective.
No, not at all. I got to a point where the same lesson kept coming and I just wasn't learning, to be honest. That has happened a couple of times in my life, a few at least. I got really comfortable with being uncomfortable, and loss transition also helps. Loss helps. So, for example, when COVID happened, I had just relocated to CPJ had just relocated me to Montego Bay.
We spent a lot of time during COVID.
Yeah, we did. And they had just relocated me to Montego Bay. 6 weeks in, COVID happened, and I was really focused on their mid-tier to premium portfolio of wine and spirits, right? COVID happens. Literally, oh my gosh, Jamaica hadn't had the first case yet. Well, the first case was announced, and you know what? I'm heading back to Kingston because I need to go to the tax office.
Do you remember? I remember exactly. That woman came from England, went to Bull Bay, and went to that funeral, and they had a photo of her in the Gleaner looking all sweaty, and you knew, and everybody knew it was her. And remember, they had to they had to block everything off because everyone was coming for her. They knew that she brought it to Jamaica. I remember that.
Arrangements to, I was like, you know what? Let me go to the tax office and deal with my paperwork for my car, because we've already gotten one case and I'm not going to that place unless we get more cases. The next day I woke up to 2 cases. I was like, that's it. I called the guy.
Meanwhile, we had up to thousands a day too.
I called the guy to deal with it. And that weekend, it was a Thursday. The second case was on a Friday. That weekend, I ended up having brunch with a friend of mine because Jamaica was still open. We only had 2 cases. So it was isolated, right? People were isolated. My girlfriend looked at me when I was talking to her. I was like, they're going to lock everything down. She's like, you think so? I'm like, everything is going to
1 year, Dagmar, we were locked down. And we had curfew every night, 6 p.m. every night. But people were congregating and they were renting the villas in Porty and other places. Yeah. But Raihn, I want to go back to something you said before, because you and I have similar mindsets. That's why we've been close for a decade plus. The first time we hung out, the first time we met at a party in Kingston, and then I invited her the very next day to my house, and I don't do that often. And I said to my parents, there's this really amazing girl, and her sister and their twins are like, that's not like you. And you came with Steve. We became so close, right? It was a 16-hour hangout. I'm going to leave it at that. 16 hours. We're having so much fun. But Raihn said something that I really resonate with also. And Dagmar, you and I talk about this a lot. Think about what you want, not what you don't want. And that's probably a part of how your shift happened, because so many people are so stuck on, like you said, the uncomfortableness, or I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I don't want this job. I don't like this guy. I don't want this. I hate the weather. Think about what you actually do want and manifest what is going to happen instead of what the negative portion of that, because then you're never going to get out of the cycle.
Because then to circle back to Dagmar and to what you're saying, I pivoted literally. As soon as the case was announced, I picked up the phone and I called the CEO of CPG at the time, Tom Tyler, who is an incredible human. And I was like, Tom, can you do home deliveries in Kingston? And he said, no, we're based in Montego Bay. I was like, can I? He's like, sure. And so I packed up everything, moved back to Kingston, flipped my Instagram page, found a graphic artist, and as we like to say in Jamaica, a car man, a bike man, and a van man. And
a coconut man.
Right.
A jelly boy.
On March 20th, I launched my home delivery business for wine and spirits. And the first month made nothing. But again, the second month is when we really started to take off. And just to give you some proof points there, and my focus was not on commercial brands, because a lot of people were focusing on cheap and cheerful. So supermarkets were cleaning up, right? And even within CPJ, the team was more focused on commercially, fast moving consumer goods, right? But I was focused on mid-tier to premium. And so I started creating stories on my page using, because I don't take a bad picture on Instagram with my phone. So I started just using my phone to create content and build stories around these brands, sold out of brands that had been sitting there for years pre-COVID, even with restaurant listings in the mid-tier to premium space. And in a matter of a few months, we added I was able to add yacht provisioning, villa sales. And then they were like, hey, would you take on corporate for us? And cleaned up at the end of that year.
Don't you remember when I had that huge party for my friend Kwame who turned 50 and I rented those 8 villas?
Yeah.
And they all stopped at CPJ and you did the order and then you had deliveries coming. I was like, what a genius. Because it was still COVID and I didn't know that I thought they were going to cancel the event, and they rented out all of Frenchman's. People were like just desperate to go somewhere and they had just opened back the island. So it was very ingenious of you. That's my girl, to come up and pivot when, you didn't know what was going to happen with business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kudos to you.
Thank you. And when my sister was getting married, we decided to do Christmas in Portland. We were at this place called Seashell, and in walks some friends of my sister's husband, who was from California, and in walks Rob, Dylan, and Chloe. I don't remember if you were playing dominoes or what we were doing, and from then on, I can say that the Floria family has just been incredible humans, but also have become family. And they've always encouraged me, but also, when I've hit my rough points and had to have a little cry, between Chloe, Barbara, and Robert, they've always really had.
Parents give way better advice. You would come there and be like, you would spend all day with Barbara and I would go to Frenchman's with Rob and you'd get some really good time in, or vice versa. Yeah.
I've just always been so grateful for the friendship with Chloe as well. So when she mentioned the podcast, I was like, look at Chloe go. I mean, it's no surprise that she's on here and that you're doing this together.
But it's dad. My dad and I during COVID, one of the things we did, we go by the Jelly Man and just negotiate. No, a what? A 50J? No, a 25. And we would just go back and forth. And it was great because we need to keep our negotiating skills up.
Correct. So now that I'm in the wellness industry, part of my role, apart from just driving our business commercially in spa, is also creating those Jamaican authentic rituals in spa. So some of our proudest moments would be transporting that guest, being part of their restoration, recovery, and healing process in spa. So one of the rituals that we rolled out, as in treatments that we rolled out at one hotel in particular, instead of using Tibetan bowls, they incorporate light drumming because it has the same effect of calming the nervous system. In another case, we are looking at launching a treatment that nothing against Bob Marley, love him, he should be a national hero, but instead of using Bob Marley instrumental, they're using nature sounds that were recorded on farm, incorporating our products and creating an additional sensory experience with the bird song and the river that's there with the water flowing and then the wind whistling through the bamboo circle. So it is.
You just put me to sleep. I love that. That's the best thing to try to just decompress right there. Correct. I just took a nap.
Correct.
Everything you just said, I was visually seeing that.
Yeah, correct. And the business is seasonal. So what do we do when we hit a slower month or a summer month? Again, it's taking those challenges and seeing how we can turn it into deepening our relationships with our current clientele. While also now, part of my role is also going to be supporting the international drive. We have our e-commerce platforms launched in the US and in the UK. And I did join the team and do some door knocking in New York to start. Did a little door knocking in Florida. And so now I am actively supporting the team in terms of replicating our success here in Jamaica, in spa, not just in North American markets, but also in the European Union. It's incredible.
You go, girl.
Yes, I'm being part of this.
I want to shift a weensy bit because your business accolades are very impressive. We'd have to really hit all of them, Dagmar, we'd be on here for hours. And unfortunately, we don't have hours because Rainey does have such a diverse, incredible background. And she's just beautiful inside and out. I want to talk to you about something that I mentioned. Dagmar and I also just interview each other and we do these 25-minute sessions that are amazing. And I was talking about how over the years, and you know this, I've gotten into discussions with people at bars and parties about the stigma that Jamaica's dangerous and don't leave the property. I want you to tell people, as a Jamaican, obviously I grew up in Jamaica, I can also, but I want Rainey to tell all the people how beautiful Jamaica is, how safe it is, and how welcoming the Jamaican culture actually is.
Yeah, the truth is, outside of just being naturally blessed with beauty and flora and fauna, I believe that our people are at the heart of what makes Jamaica Jamaica. You know, we're the greatest small nation, or the greatest nation on this small island. Truth of the matter to me is, as growing up here and experiencing and touching my fellow Jamaicans, for me, it is a warmth, it is a charm. We're colorful, not just in terms of how we speak, but how we dress, how we live, how we express ourselves, and not just in terms of speaking to Jamaica through dance, through music, through food. Those are just some of the things outside of business and other areas that I would touch on. And, you know, for me as a woman, Jamaica is a safe place. Everywhere has something. I've always thought that it is really unfortunate that we get so much attention of the wrong kind, because, yeah, I mean, everywhere you hear about really dangerous places, you hear about shootings, you hear about like areas that should be safe that aren't. Jamaica is actually a safe place. I think as a traveler and somebody who travels in Jamaica as well as other parts of the world, you always have to be a little bit cautious depending on where you go. Don't just go with in and anybody. Trust your gut feeling. Keep your wits about you and just make sure that you may, I mean, unfortunately, not everyone has this, but I tend, if I'm going somewhere, check in with family and friends, your body, in where I'm going, so at least you have somebody local there to anchor you.
Yeah, man. When you touch road, you have to make sure people know where you are.
I think it's a really bad misconception that Jamaica is a dangerous place.
100%. The worst misconception of all the islands.
It's
And
not.
then remember, there's like 3 million people in Jamaica alone. If you look at St. Kitts, Nevis, Barbados, all these other there's like St. Lucia, there's only 100,000 people. So 100,000 versus 3 million, there's going to be a little crime. Look at New York City, look at Paris, look at London. I mean, these are the most visited places. But I also want you to tell people, because people don't understand that there's white Jamaican, coolie boy, shiny boy, high color, low color, brownin. Can you explain? People don't understand it's a real melting pot.
It is a real
One out of many.
Yeah, so our motto is out of many one people. And so are a mix of different nations that came here to settle. So you do have Jamaicans that are Caucasian. You do have Jamaicans that are Indian. You have Jamaicans that are Asian, Chinese and Japanese Jamaicans now, because we actually have a little Japanese quarter.
That's something new. I did not know that. Rewind, come again.
Yeah, because you have
I love the Japanese.
They love the culture. They've come here. They've married and partnered with Jamaicans. They have these little Japanese Jamaican kids walking around. You know, we have first generation Japanese Jamaican kids. Traditionally, it would be European and certainly North American sort of mixing in with the African and the Indian and the Chinese and so on, and Lebanese and Jewish and so on. You know, so we do have people represented from different nations here that are from here. So it's a beautiful thing to witness, because we benefit because we have all this great food that we get to try and have, but also just to honor our heritage. Even if it is married to another culture, it's a beautiful thing to have here in Jamaica, to be honest. So yeah, you do have, and it's funny because in the rest of the world, people tend to see these things as offensive, but in Jamaica, it's like, yeah, ask Mr. Chin down the road, or he calls.
No one gets canceled in Jamaica.
No one.
Do you know how many times?
Like,
right. How many times have you and I been together at the beach, or right, brown in, and they're talking to both of us.
I mean,
they're not just talking either, because you know I stay dark, or someone says somebody's high color or low color, or you know someone will say whitey. My dad after a while I'm like, wasn't even offended anymore. It's like, this is just how you address people. Shiny boy, like you say that here, oh my God, you're done. Forget it. You're over.
Yeah, so it's this great melting pot, as you said, Chloe. Well, you would know. I mean, you're like a Jamaican. You are
Jamaican. I'd like to call myself Jamaican. Yeah. Jamaican. And you know, you touched on some of the early settlers. Yeah, the Lebanese and the Syrian Jews were some of the first. They came to Jamaica in the 1800s. One of the oldest temples in the Western Hemisphere. You know, it's in Kingston. There's sand on the floor there, which I love. But I love the mix. The food, Dagmar, honestly, it's the truth. And I've been to different countries in Asia. The Chinese and the Indian food in Jamaica, you wouldn't think it. Of course, the local Jamaican, the jerk and you know, the curry goat and the pumpkin soup, chicken foot, you know, all those other things. But it's really interesting that all these cultures have come together, and even the Lebanese food's kind of picking up there. Raihn would know more because she's in this industry. But we also want to know a little bit about relationships, because we've been touching on this a lot lately, Dagmar. And I'm totally shifting gears, but Raihn is the kind of person who's very open and honest. And I'm going to ask her one question, and I know Dagmar is going to follow up, because this is like our subject right now. We just did a podcast on knowing when to end a relationship and what the signs are. And I'd love to hear your perspective on it.
I mean, well, it takes two. In Jamaica, we say.
Sorry, I threw you a curveball on that one, but I was like, we got to do it.
It takes two hands to clap, right? And I think if you are, as we like to say, 100, I strongly believe that you have to be rooted in yourself. You have to be happy for yourself. You have to enjoy yourself, love yourself. And I think that's a key ingredient to really sustaining a relationship, because you're not looking to someone else to constantly give you this confirmation that you are loved and that you deserve to be in a relationship. People showing up authentically. And if someone, everybody is on a different journey. Once you recognize that potentially you're not, I like to say equally yoked, but if your values don't align, things like that. Someone, you may be more emotionally mature than someone else. The truth of the matter is my approach has always been, I'm not a victim, right? I was a willing participant. And if there's something that I don't like, then I have the freedom and choice to step away, whether I like it or not. I will do so. After the talk with Chloe, maybe, as usual, as it would happen. But
during COVID, we had a lot of talks about relationships and mistakes we made in the past and what we're not going to do in the future.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not working, I think you have to also be careful of communicating, because I tend to be someone that, if I'm in a relationship and it's ending, there's no drama, there's no screaming, there's no any of that. You just say, this isn't really working for me. And let's be friends, or let's not do this anymore because it doesn't make any sense. Or let's not do this anymore because I want to make space for someone else. And if I have you in my space, I won't need to leave that open for someone else, or just to water myself. The truth is it's important, like they say on the meme, knowing when to leave the job, the relationship. You need to know when to step away for your own good. Some people unfortunately overstay. And I'm not saying I haven't, but I usually, once I realize what's up, I kind of just move on, take my hand out of the lion's mouth slowly and move on.
Raihn, how important is it for you, or how important did you experience it? Is it to love yourself and to see your own value first before you go into a relationship?
It's how important is it for me? Well, as a former people pleaser.
We just did a whole episode on being a people pleaser, so please watch it. It's out now. Just the two of us talking about it.
No, I'm going back.
That topic alone.
A recovered people pleaser.
Same.
My two recovering addicts. I love you both.
It was a sobering experience for me. Was when I decided to stand up for myself and actually realize when I was being treated badly or just not being treated, or, to the fact that people preferred or would respond to that version of me versus where I kind of just allowed. And when I say people please, I mean, take it easy. I'm not going to react to everything. Sure, you're going to do you may do something negative that I don't like, but I'd always be for a peaceful life, and always put people's feelings before mine. So I'm like, hey, if it's going to create a problem, maybe I won't say anything. What became clear and sobering was that when I would stand up for myself is when I would get the ire and wrath, despite always having a shoulder, a willing ear, sometimes, dedicating myself physically to assisting someone or supporting, whether it be a friend or whether it be platonic or romantic, and just realizing that, oh my gosh, here it is. Look how long I've been showing up for this person. The minute I decided to show up for myself, it was never well received. And so I have intentionally stepped away from those kinds of relationships. So people who I've been friends with for a long time, the minute that I sense that there is any kind of dissension, whether it be gaslighting, negativity, and even in some cases, I've had, in particularly with women, not Chloe, that's what I'm sure, but in particularly with women, recently ended a very long relationship with someone who's known me from I was 4 years old, because I don't know what it was, but it just felt as if I'd shared some very personal and private information with her. I told her, that it didn't really make me feel comfortable, and she just went right ahead and engaged in something that really hurt. And initially she apologized and then tried to justify it, and it just became like this sick exchange. And I said, if I had come to you with and told you that someone was treating me like this, you would tell me not to, that person is not my friend. And I certainly don't expect that from people in my inner circle. The distrust, and just, as it were, I recognize that that particular person had a challenge with alcoholism. And so I realized that I had to step away, even though it hurt. I realized that outside of that emotional part of it, like, I really had to also meet my shadow. So, for example, as a former people pleaser, when someone tries to be passive aggressive and play in my face, as I like to say, and I try to speak with them, and once that doesn't work, and I realize that it keeps recurring, then, as we say in Jamaica, I have to step in your chest and really, and say, if you haven't met me before, let me reintroduce myself and be firm, direct, and clear. And oftentimes people feel that because you're being firm, direct, and clear and short, that she's a soft person. I'm using expletives on this podcast, but I do also think being strong and coming out strong was a necessary development for me to really step into my authentic self, outside of, it's okay to be calm, pick your battles, but also sometimes I think a firm hand is needed. And I've also had to meet that side of myself and embrace it and realize, don't feel bad if somebody's being negative or being a certain way. You actually have to let them know. And sometimes clear and direct is the best way. You never need expletives. I use my words, and that can come across even worse than using
Talk
it.
straight to me now. Don't go sideways.
Correct.
Talk to me straight. But that's probably why our friendship has lasted so long, because we've never, ever been disloyal to each other.
Correct. And I think it's because
we've had stuff, well, like stupid things like all friends do, but we've never had anything like that.
Like all girls do. Sisters.
Yeah, like sisters, like I wanted to go to Frenchman's and you left me and you went to this party and like silly stuff, but we never had anything like that.
But I can definitely say I always prefer people who are who they are, who are direct. Be loud and proud, because at least you know what you're getting. And loyalty is important to me as well. And once I started to realize that there are people that are disloyal, there's no room for you in my life. But, forgiveness is important. So I continue to be a work in progress, because I also think that part of letting things go is that you let things go. So for me, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to be friends again, but it just means that I'm able to be compassionate and hold space rather than carry.
Yeah. I think that's so important what you just said. If you could give the women who are listening to us one message, what you learned about being a people pleaser and then finding your own truth and value and how you deal with it today, what would be the one message you would share with them?
Well, I would say water you. The grass is not greener on the other side. It doesn't matter where you are, what you're facing. You may not have the job you want. You may not have the guy you want. You may not have the life you want. Everybody's life looks different, but I think that gratefulness and pouring into yourself, I like to say, coming home to yourself repeatedly, no matter, and really making sure that you have a strong circle, leaning on others when you need to. And if it doesn't have to be someone you know, it could be someone that you don't know. Mentorship, never be afraid to ask for mentorship, even if it's a perfect stranger, because you just never know. I mean, I think all those things, and then also just giving yourself grace. If you need to have and to cry, rest. If you need to just not, as I like to say, plug out and plug back in, then do that.
Raihn, all these new one-liners you have that I haven't heard. I love all these new ones. Plug in, plug out, water yourself. Yes, my girl. Preach, Rainy, preach.
Lessons that I've been getting. So I am continuing to learn and relearn. So I think that's going to be key. Like, for example, I've always wanted to be a mom. And the fact that I'm not a mom right now is not a bad thing. It'd be nice. But I'm also like, no, I'm more kind of at the point where if I inherit a family and, and end up with grandchildren and nieces and nephews in that regard, I welcome it. In the meantime, in between time, try to help other women. Like, I believe in the teach a man to fish. I believe that a rising tide lifts all boats. And so just like how someone helped me, I will continue to see if I can foster and mentor to help others to grow and to get support where needed, whether it's man or woman.
Amazing.
Continue
we love you. We love you.
Give back. Yeah, because just to wrap it up though, before you say anything, Chloe, there was a point when I had no car, no job, and it was really, really hard. And
I remember.
I can say one of the greatest things that helped me to keep my head and heart in the right place and my feet on the ground was volunteering. So that also was something that I got into, and I'm still doing it. So I'm not with the initial project that I started on, which was for the Trench Town, for the Boys Town community. I now support the Jamaica Stroke Alliance, which is really just to raise awareness and engagement and funding to assist people who lack resources to get treatment, and not just treatment, but actual like wheelchairs, because after suffering stroke and so I've been supporting Hillary Webby's Jamaica Stroke Alliance because she suffered a stroke at 52 years old.
Wow.
Massive stroke at 52 years old. She wrote a book about it. And she started the Jamaica Stroke Alliance as a result. So I support her and her team there. So it does help to keep me grounded.
There's something about volunteer work that feels, my parents were like heavily involved in the community.
Yes.
The local community and giving back. And it's something that everyone should try at least once in your life, is to volunteer and to give back. And Dagmar and I both worked in nonprofit worlds for a long time. So I feel, our humanitarianism, it comes out. And Raihn, you're the same way. The three of us have a lot of similarities. But unfortunately, as Dagmar would say, we're coming to a close soon, only because we have, we give ourselves an allotted amount of time because we want people to listen to the entire episode. But Raihn, first I'm going to plug us, and then I want you to tell people where they can find you. So ladies and gents, people of all races and creeds, all my Jamaican peeps out there, I miss all you guys. You can find us on ProblemSolvHer.com. No E on solve, it's a play on words. At Problem Solver on IG. We are on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And Rainy, my beautiful dear, where can the people them find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Raindrops.
Woo! Sexy lady.
So that's RAIH and Rain with an H, Raindrops on Instagram. Find me there. If you want to reach out, I would say get in touch with ProblemSolvHer just to make sure that we have a clear connect and a point of contact.
I love you for that. See how she's a marketing genius, Dagmar?
Yeah, get in touch with the ProblemSolvHer ladies. Get in touch with Dagmar if you want to reach me. And then shameless plug for Jacana. You can find us at JacanaWellness.com, and you can also find us on Instagram at Jacana Wellness. We're also on LinkedIn, and we have a new page.
Hey. Rainy, all the way from the West Indies, Jamaica. Sitting on my doorstep. Love you, Rainy. We thank you. We see you. We hear you. And we're so happy that we had you on today. You're a beauty inside and out. And you've given some great advice, and I know people are listening and watching. Well, they will be once Dagmar publishes this. Love you all.
One love. Thank you for having me. Super grateful. Have a great rest of the week.
Love you, baby girl.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Ciao.
Bye. Please note that the views shared by our guests are their own. We invite honest stories and diverse perspectives, but they don't necessarily reflect our opinions or serve as professional advice.